The galaxy was a vast and complicated place, filled with countless species, planets, and civilizations. For centuries, it had been a chaotic mix of wars, trade, and fragile alliances. But over time, the larger powers empires like the Krylos, Dominion, and the Varnic Collective had carved out their territories and established a shaky balance of power. Most beings in the galaxy went about their lives without thinking too much about what lay beyond their borders. Peace wasn't perfect, but it was enough. On Earth, however, things were different. Humanity had spent decades recovering from its own mistakes, wars that ravaged continents, pollution that choked the skies, and greed that left millions struggling to survive. It took years of effort, sacrifice, and innovation to rebuild. Slowly, humanity began to look outward again, not just to explore, but to ensure that no one else would ever dictate their fate. Earth's leaders knew they needed to be ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them. That readiness came in the form of the Aegis, Earth's first interstellar battleship. Sleek and dark, it looked more like a shadow than a ship. Its design was both beautiful and intimidating, with sharp angles and glowing blue lines running along its hull. Inside, the Aegis was packed with advanced technology weapon systems unlike anything seen before, stealth capabilities that made it nearly invisible to sensors and engines powerful enough to cross light years in days. It was a symbol of Earth's determination to stand tall among the stars. Leading the crew of the Aegis was Captain Lavra Hayes. She was a woman who commanded respect the moment she walked into a room. Her piercing blue eyes missed nothing, and her calm demeanor masked a fierce intelligence. Lavra had spent her entire career preparing for this mission. She wasn't just a soldier. She was a strategist, a leader, and someone who believed deeply in protecting her people. Under her command were some of Earth's brightest minds, each chosen for their skills and dedication. One of those minds belonged to Alex Carter, the ship's chief engineer. Alex was a genius when it came to machines. He could take apart an engine with his eyes closed and put it back together twice as fast. His hands were always stained with grease, and his mind was always racing with ideas. The experimental defense systems on the Aegis were largely his work, though he rarely took credit for it. To him, it was just another problem to solve. Then there was Rachel Morgan, the communications officer. Rachel had a knack for understanding people, whether they were human or alien. She spoke multiple languages fluently and could read emotions in even the briefest of transmissions. Her quick thinking often helped defuse tense situations before they spiraled out of control. On the Aegis, she was the voice that connected them to the rest of the galaxy. Finally, there was Daniel Brooks, the pilot. Daniel had flown everything from old-fashioned airplanes to cutting-edge spacecraft. He was known for his steady hands and his ability to think on his feet. More than once, his quick reflexes had saved the crew from disaster. Though he joked around a lot, everyone knew how serious he was about his job. Together, these four formed the heart of the Aegis. They weren't just colleagues. They were a team bound by trust and shared purpose. And now, after months of preparation, they were finally ready to leave Earth behind and venture into the unknown. As the Aegis approached the neutral zone, a stretch of space between the Krylos Dominion and the Varnic Collective, tension filled the air. The neutral zone was supposed to be a buffer, a place where neither side dared to tread. But lately, tensions had been rising. Both empires had amassed fleets near the border, each waiting for the other to make the first move. No one expected a newcomer like Earth to show up unannounced. When the Aegis appeared on long-range scanners, whispers rippled through the nearby ships. Who were these strangers? What did they want? And why did their ship look so menacing? Some speculated that Earth was planning to ally with one side or the other. Others thought they might be spies sent to gather intelligence. A few even wondered if the Aegis was a weapon designed to tip the scales in favor of whoever controlled it. Lavra knew they couldn't afford to seem weak. When the Krylos hailed them, demanding identification, she responded immediately. "This is Captain Lavra Hayes of the Earth vessel Aegis. We are here as observers and do not wish to interfere in your affairs." Her tone was firm but polite, leaving no room for argument. The Krylos commander, a grizzled veteran named Tarkin, wasn't satisfied. "You have entered restricted space," he growled. "State your intentions." "We seek peaceful relations with all species," Lavra replied. "But let me be clear, any aggression toward us will not go unanswered." Her words only deepened the suspicion. To the Krylos and the Varnik watching silently from the sidelines, the Aegis seemed like a provocation rather than a gesture of goodwill. Tensions escalated quickly when a rogue Krylos cruiser fired a warning shot near the Aegis. It was meant to intimidate, to show Earth that they weren't welcome here. What happened next shocked everyone, unbeknownst to the Krylos. Alex had been working on a new kind of defense system. When the energy blast neared the Aegis, a shimmering barrier erupted around the ship, deflecting the attack back at the cruiser with devastating precision. The once mighty vessel exploded in a fiery burst, leaving stunned silence in its wake. For a moment, no one moved. Then Laura's voice cut through the static. "Message received," she said coolly. "Do not test us." The message was clear. Earth wasn't here to play games. They weren't afraid to fight back if provoked. And though no one aboard the Aegis wanted war, they were prepared for it. As the crew processed what had just happened, Lavra turned to her officers. "We've made our point," she said. "Now we need to figure out how to keep the peace without starting a war." It wouldn't be easy. The galaxy was watching now, and every move they made would be scrutinized. But one thing was certain. Earth's arrival had changed everything. Whether for better or worse remained to be seen. The explosion of the Krylos cruiser sent shockwaves through the neutral zone, not just in the physical sense, but in the minds of everyone who witnessed it. For a brief moment, silence reigned as the debris of the destroyed ship drifted into the void, then chaos erupted. The Krylos fleet scrambled to regroup, their comms filled with panicked voices trying to make sense of what had just happened. On the other side of the neutral zone, the Varnik collective watched intently, their ships holding position but clearly ready to act if needed. Inside the Aegis, the crew worked quickly to assess the situation. Rachel monitored incoming transmissions, her fingers flying over the console as she filtered through the flood of messages. Some were demands for explanations, others threats of retaliation. Alex kept an eye on the energy readings, ensuring that the experimental barrier system didn't overload after its first real-world test. Daniel adjusted the ship's course slightly, keeping them at a safe distance from both fleets while staying close enough to maintain a presence. And Lavra stood at the center of it all, her expression calm but her mind racing. "What do we do now?" Daniel asked, breaking the tense quiet. His voice was steady, but there was a hint of unease beneath it. They had come here to observe and establish peaceful relations, not to start a war. Lavra turned to him, her blue eyes sharp and focused. "We hold our ground," she said firmly. "They fired first. We defended ourselves. That's all anyone needs to know." "But they're not going to see it that way," Rachel interjected. She looked up from her station, her face pale. "I'm picking up chatter about calling this an act of aggression. If we don't handle this carefully, we could end up with two fleets bearing down on us." Alex nodded in agreement. "And if they decide to team up against us, we're outnumbered 10-1. Even with the barrier system, we can't take that kind of heat forever." Lavra knew they were right, but she also knew they couldn't afford to back down. Earth's reputation hung in the balance. If they appeared weak now, every species in the galaxy would see them as easy prey. "We stick to the plan," she said after a moment. "We came here to show them that Earth is not to be underestimated. Let's make sure they understand that." With that, Lavra stepped toward the communications panel. "Rachel, patch me through to both fleets. It's time to set the record straight." Rachel hesitated for a split second before nodding. Her hands moved swiftly across the controls, and within moments, Laura's voice echoed across the neutral zone. "To the Krylos Dominion and the Varnik Collective," she began, her tone measured but firm. "The destruction of your cruiser was not an act of aggression, it was self-defense. You fired upon us without provocation, and our systems responded accordingly. We did not come here seeking conflict, but we will not tolerate hostility either." There was a pause as her words hung in the air. Then Tarkin, the Krylos commander, responded. His voice was laced with anger and disbelief. "You dare justify the murder of my men? Your arrival has disrupted the fragile peace in this region. Leave now or face the consequences." Lavra didn't flinch. "We will leave when we are ready," she replied. "But mark my words, any further aggression will be met with equal force. Do not mistake our restraint for weakness." Her message was clear, and it left no room for negotiation. Across the neutral zone, beings listened intently. To some, Laura's words sounded like a challenge. To others, they were a warning. Either way, Earth had made its stance known. As the hours passed, the situation remained volatile. The Krylos fleet continued to circle the Aegis, their weapons powered but not yet aimed directly at the ship. The Varna Collective, meanwhile, stayed eerily silent, their intentions unclear. Rachel monitored their movements closely, noting how their ships seemed to shift positions subtly, almost as if preparing for something. "They're coordinating," Rachel muttered under her breath. "Not openly, but I think they're planning something together." Lavra frowned. "How certain are you?" "Pretty certain," Rachel admitted. "Their formations are shifting in sync. It's subtle, but it's there. If I had to guess, they're debating whether to attack us jointly." "That doesn't sound good," Daniel said dryly. He glanced at the navigation screen, his hands hovering over the controls. "If they decide to hit us hard, we'll need to move fast. The barrier system might buy us some time, but it won't last forever." Alex chimed in, his voice tinged with frustration. "And even if we manage to hold them off, we'll burn through our reserves in minutes. One battle isn't going to win us this fight, it'll just make us look desperate." Lavra nodded thoughtfully. She knew they couldn't win a direct confrontation, not with such overwhelming odds, but retreat wasn't an option either. If they left now, they'd be seen as cowards. No, they needed another approach, something bold enough to send a message, but calculated enough to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. "We need to change the narrative," Lavora said finally. "Right now, they see us as invaders. We need to remind them why we're here and give them a reason to back off." "And how do we do that?" Daniel asked skeptically. Lavar smiled faintly. "By showing them exactly what we're capable of." Later that night, the crew gathered in the briefing room to finalize their plan. Lavra stood at the head of the table, laying out her strategy. "Tomorrow morning we'll perform a demonstration of our capabilities," she explained. "Something non-lethal but impressive enough to get their attention." "What kind of demonstration?" Alex asked, leaning forward. "We'll disable one of their smaller ships," Lavara replied. "Nothing permanent, just enough to prove that we can neutralize threats without resorting to violence." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You mean hack into their systems? That's risky." "If they trace it back to us, they won't," Alex interrupted confidently. "I've been working on a signal scrambler. It'll mask our interference and make it look like a technical malfunction. Trust me, they'll never know it was us." Daniel grinned. "So we're playing dirty, huh? I like it." "It's not about playing dirty," Lavra corrected him. "It's about making a point. Once they realize we can take them apart piece by piece without firing a shot, they'll think twice about attacking us." The plan was risky, but it was their best shot. Over the next few hours, Alex fine-tuned the signal scrambler while Rachel mapped out potential targets. Daniel ran simulations on the navigation system, plotting escape routes in case things went south. Lavra oversaw everything, double-checking every detail to ensure nothing was overlooked. By sunrise, they were ready. As the Aegis drifted closer to the edge of the neutral zone, the crew prepared for action. Lavra gave the order, and Alex activated the scrambler. Within seconds, a small Krylos scout ship began experiencing power fluctuations. Its engines sputtered, its weapon systems went offline, and its communication array fell silent. To the rest of the fleet, it looked like a routine malfunction, a minor inconvenience. Nothing more, but Lavra wasn't done yet. Using the same scrambler, she broadcast a message directly to the affected ship. "This is Captain Lavra Hayes of the Aegis. Consider this a demonstration of our capabilities. We do not seek conflict, but we will defend ourselves by any means necessary. Heed this warning or face the consequences. The message was short and to the point, but its impact was immediate. News of the disabled scouts spread quickly through both fleets, sparking debates and raising questions. How had Earth managed to infiltrate their system so easily? What other tricks did the Aegis have up its sleeve? Most importantly, how far? Were they willing to go? Tarkin was the first to respond. His voice crackled over the coms, heavy with frustration. Your antics will not go unpunished, human. Mark my words, you've made a grave mistake. Lavra didn't rise to the bait. Instead, she simply replied, We've made our position clear. The choice is yours? For the rest of the day, the neutral zone remained eerily quiet. The Krylos fleet pulled back slightly, their posture less aggressive than before. The Varna collective followed suit, though their movements suggested they were still weighing their options. Whatever doubts they had about Earth's strength had been replaced by a newfound caution. Inside the Aegis, the mood was cautiously optimistic. The crew exchanged relieved smiles, knowing they had bought themselves some breathing room, but Lavar remained vigilant. She knew better than to celebrate too soon. The galaxy was unpredictable, and even the smallest misstep could reignite the tension. As the ship drifted silently among the stars, Lavra stared out the viewport, her thoughts drifting. They had proven their strength, but at what cost? The galaxy now saw Earth as a force to be reckoned with, but also as a potential threat. Had they truly secured their place among the stars, or had they merely postponed the inevitable? Only time would tell. The ripple effects of Earth's arrival spread far beyond the neutral zone. News of the Asterisk. Aegis Asterisk's actions traveled quickly through the galaxy, carried by traders, diplomats, and spies who whispered about the mysterious newcomers. Footage of the destroyed Krylos cruiser and the disabled scout ship circulated endlessly, replayed on screens in space stations, taverns, and council chambers. For the first time in centuries, the balance of power that had kept the galaxy in check was shifting, and everyone wanted to know more about these humans from Earth. Some species saw Earth as a potential ally. The smaller factions, long caught between the Krylos Dominion and the Varna Collective, hoped that humanity might offer protection or advanced technology. Others viewed Earth with suspicion, wary of their motives and capabilities. A few even began preparing for the worst, fearing that Earth's presence signaled the beginning of a new era of conflict. Back on the Aegis, the crew tried to make sense of the chaos they had unleashed. Lavra Hayes stood on the bridge, watching the steady stream of incoming transmissions. Most were requests for meetings, trade proposals, or thinly veiled threats. Some came from ambassadors hoping to establish diplomatic relations. Others were from rogue elements looking to exploit Earth's newfound fame. We've become celebrities, Rachel Morgan said dryly as she sifted through the messages. Her voice carried a hint of exhaustion. Everyone wants a piece of us. It's not just curiosity, Alex Carter added from his station. He was hunched over a console, running diagnostics on the ship's systems. They're trying to figure out if we're friends, enemies, or something else entirely, Lavra nodded thoughtfully. And until they decide, we're stuck in the middle of this mess. Daniel Brooks leaned back in his seat, arms crossed. So what's the plan? Do we keep playing hard to get, or do we pick a side? That's the problem, Lavra replied. If we choose one side, we risk alienating the other, but if we stay neutral, we might look weak. Either way, we're walking a tightrope. Her words hung heavily in the air. The crew knew she was right. Every decision they made, from where to go next to how to respond to the flood of messages, would be scrutinized. One wrong move could turn allies into enemies or provoke an attack they weren't ready for. Despite the pressure, Lavar refused to let fear dictate her actions. She called another meeting with her senior officers to discuss their next steps. We need to send a message, she said firmly. Not just to the Krylos and the Varnuk, but to the entire galaxy. They need to understand that Earth is here to stay, and that we won't tolerate being pushed around. Alex raised an eyebrow. You mean another demonstration? Something bigger, Lavra clarified. Something that shows them exactly what we're capable of without crossing the line into outright war. Rachel frowned. Are you sure that's wise? Every time we flex our muscles, it seems to escalate things. I agree with Rachel, Daniel chimed in. We've already proven we can hold our own. Maybe it's time to dial it back and focus on diplomacy. Lavra shook her head. Diplomacy only works if they respect us. Right now, half the galaxy sees us as a wild card, and the other half thinks we're bluffing. We need to show them we're neither. The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Finally, Alex spoke up. If we're going to do this, we need a target. Something big enough to get their attention, but small enough to avoid unnecessary casualties. Lavra nodded. I've been thinking about that. There's a Varnic outpost near the edge of their territory. It's heavily fortified, but it's also isolated. If we hit it strategically, we can send a message without causing too much damage. And how exactly do we hit it? Rachel asked skeptically. Last time, we used the signal scrambler. What's the plan this time? We don't hit it directly, Lavra explained. We disable it. Take out their power grid, communications, and security systems. Make it clear that we could have done worse, but chose not to. Alex leaned forward, intrigued. That's actually not a bad idea. A surgical strike like that would show off our precision while keeping things non-lethal. Plus, it would give us valuable intel on their infrastructure. Daniel grinned. Sounds like fun. When do we leave? That night, under the cover of darkness, the Aegis slipped away from the neutral zone, its destination, a remote Varnic outpost known for housing prisoners of war. The journey took several hours, during which the crew prepared meticulously. Alex worked tirelessly to modify the signal scrambler, ensuring it could handle the outpost's more complex systems. Rachel intercepted transmissions to monitor the outpost's activity, timing their approach to coincide with a routine shift change when defenses would be at their lowest. Daniel plotted the course, weaving through asteroid fields and nebulae to avoid detection. When they finally arrived, the outpost loomed ahead, a massive structure bristling with turrets and surrounded by smaller patrol ships. Lavra gave the order, and Alex activated the scrambler. Within moments, the lights on the outpost flickered and went dark. Alarms blared faintly in the distance as automated systems failed one by one. Power grids collapsed, communication arrays fell silent, and security drones froze mid-flight. The crew watched silently as the outpost descended into chaos. From their vantage point aboard the Aegis, they could see figures scrambling across the surface, trying to restore order. But it was no use, their systems were completely crippled. Once the operation was complete, Lavra transmitted a final message. This is Captain Lavra Hayes of Earth's Battleship Aegis. This is a demonstration of our resolve. We do not seek conflict, but we will not tolerate threats. Consider this your only warning. With that, the Aegis disengaged its cloaking device and disappeared into the void, leaving behind a scene of confusion and panic. The impact of the attack was immediate. Across the galaxy, beings watched footage of the powerless outpost, marveling at the precision of the strike. To many, it seemed impossible that such a small ship could achieve so much with so little collateral damage. Speculation ran wild. Some hailed Earth as a beacon of hope, a force capable of challenging the tyranny of the larger empires. Others saw them as a dangerous wild card, unpredictable and uncontrollable. Among those who took notice was Commander Ethan Drake, a high-ranking official within the Galactic Council. Drake was a traditionalist, someone who believed in maintaining the status quo at all costs. To him, Earth's intervention was reckless and destabilizing. He wasted no time rallying support among like-minded leaders, arguing that humanity's presence posed a threat to galactic stability. They think they can waltz in here and rewrite the rules, Drake declared during a heated council session. But mark my words, if we allow this to continue, it will only lead to chaos. His rhetoric gained traction, especially among those who felt threatened by Earth's rise. Soon, whispers of sanctions and embargoes against Earth began circulating. Some even talked of forming a coalition to confront humanity directly, but not everyone agreed with Drake. Several smaller factions saw Earth as an opportunity rather than a threat. They reached out to Lava, offering alliances and trade agreements in exchange for access to Earth's technology. Even some members of the Galactic Council questioned whether opposing Earth was truly in their best interest. For Lavar and her crew, the mixed reactions only added to the complexity of their mission. On one hand, they had succeeded in establishing Earth as a dominant force. On the other, they had ignited a debate that showed no signs of resolution. As the Aegis returned to Earth's borders, Lavra couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of what was to come. What happens now? Daniel asked as they approached the edge of human-controlled space. Lavra glanced at him, her expression unreadable. Now, she said softly, we wait and we prepare. Because whatever comes next, it's going to be big. The galaxy had changed forever. Whether for better or worse remained to be seen. Months passed since the Aegis' daring strike on the Varnak outpost. The galaxy was still buzzing with talk of Earth's mysterious battleship and its crew. Some species praised the humans for their precision and restraint, calling them a symbol of hope in a fractured universe. Others saw them as a looming threat, an unpredictable force that could tip the delicate balance of power at any moment. Either way, Earth had become the center of attention, and everyone wanted to know what they would do next. Back on Earth, Captain Lavar Hayes and her crew were hailed as heroes. Parades were held in their honor, and speeches were made about humanity's place among the stars. But despite the celebrations, Lavar felt uneasy. She knew the galaxy's fascination with Earth wouldn't last forever. Sooner or later, someone would try to challenge them again, and when that happened, they needed to be ready. The crew returned to duty aboard the Aegis, monitoring communications and scanning for signs of trouble. Alex Carter spent most of his time upgrading the ship's systems, adding new features to the experimental defense technology that had already proven so effective. Rachel Morgan intercepted transmissions from across the galaxy, piecing together intelligence reports about shifting alliances and growing tensions. Daniel Brooks ran drills, practicing evasive maneuvers and combat simulations to ensure the crew stayed sharp. And Lavra? She spent hours poring over star charts, planning strategies for whatever might come next, but no amount of preparation could have fully prepared them for what happened next. Commander Ethan Drake had been busy. Since his fiery speech before the Galactic Council, he had worked tirelessly to build a coalition against Earth. His arguments resonated with many leaders who feared humanity's rapid rise. Together they formed an alliance of planets, each contributing ships and resources to confront Earth directly. Their combined fleet numbered in the hundreds warships, cruisers, carriers, and support vessels, all united under one goal: to bring Earth to its knees. Drake's message was simple but chilling. Earth has disrupted the peace, he declared. In a broadcast sent to every corner of the galaxy, they claim to seek harmony, yet their actions speak of arrogance and aggression. If they refuse to submit to galactic law, we will show them the consequences. The transmission reached Earth just days before the Coalition fleet began its march toward the Sol system. Panic spread quickly. Governments scrambled to prepare defenses while citizens braced for the worst. Many wondered if humanity's brief foray into interstellar politics was about to end in disaster. Lavra received orders to intercept the fleet. The Aegis was Earth's strongest weapon, and it fell to her and her crew to protect their home. As they set course for deep space, the weight of responsibility settled heavily on their shoulders. This wasn't just another mission, it was everything. When the Aegis arrived at the edge of the Sol system, the sight of the Coalition fleet was staggering. Hundreds of ships stretched across the void, their engines glowing like fireflies against the blackness of space. It was a display of raw power unlike anything anyone had seen before. Even Lavra, who rarely showed fear, felt a chill run down her spine. "They're not messing around," Daniel muttered as he guided the Aegis into position. "This is everything they've got?" Rachel monitored the incoming transmissions, her face pale. "They're hailing us." "Drake wants to negotiate." Lavara frowned. "Negotiate? They brought this many ships to talk?" "It's probably just, a formality," Alex said grimly. "They want to look reasonable before they crush us." Lavra nodded. Then let's hear what they have to say. Moments later, Commander Drake's face appeared on the main screen. He was older than Lavra, expected, with sharp features and cold, calculating eyes. His uniform gleamed with medals and insignias, a testament to his long career in galactic politics. Captain Hayes, Drake began, his tone icy, you have caused enough disruption. Surrender your vessel and agree to submit to galactic authority or face annihilation. Lavra didn't hesitate. We came here seeking peace, not submission. If you attack us, you'll regret it. Drake smirked. Bold words for someone so outnumbered. Do you really think your little ship can stand against all of us? We don't need to defeat you, Lavra replied calmly. We just need to survive long enough to make you regret starting this fight. For a moment, Drake seemed taken aback by her confidence. Then his expression hardened. Very well, you leave us no choice. As the transmission ended, the Coalition fleet began advancing. Weapons powered up, shields activated and targeting. Systems locked onto the Aegis. The battle was about to begin. Inside the Aegis, the crew sprang into action. Alex initiated the Eclipse Cannon, a prototype weapon designed to create localized gravitational anomalies. It was their ace in the hole, the one thing that might give them a fighting chance against such overwhelming odds. But using it required perfect timing and absolute trust in the crew. Alex, are you ready? Lavra asked, her voice steady despite the tension. As ready as I'll ever be, Alex replied, his hands moving quickly over the controls. Just get us close enough to trigger it. Daniel adjusted the ship's course, weaving through the enemy formation with breathtaking skill. Lasers and plasma bolts streaked past the Aegis, narrowly missing its hull. Rachel patched into the enemy comes, feeding real-time data to Alex and Daniel. They're focusing their fire on our rear shields, Rachel reported. If we keep this up much longer, they'll break through. Not if we hit them first, Lavra said firmly. Daniel, get us into position. With a final burst of speed, the Aegis slipped behind the largest cluster of enemy ships. Alex activated the Eclipse Cannon, and a massive distortion field erupted around the Coalition fleet. Ships shuddered as artificial gravity pulled them. Off course. Engines sputtered, weapons misfired, and communication lines went dead. Within moments, the entire fleet was immobilized. Drifting helplessly in the void, on the bridge of the Aegis, the crew exhaled in relief. They had done it. They had neutralized the threat without firing a single shot. Lavra turned to Rachel. Patch me through to their frequency? It's time to finish this. When Laura's voice echoed across the battlefield, it carried both authority and warning. This is Captain Lavra Hayes of Earth's battleship Aegis. We do not seek conflict, but we will defend ourselves and our people. Consider this your only warning. Respect our sovereignty and we will coexist peacefully. Challenge us again and you'll find out exactly what terror truly means. Her words resonated throughout the galaxy. The Coalition fleet retreated, their commanders humiliated and defeated. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted once more, but Lavra knew better than to celebrate too soon. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, and there would always be those who doubted humanity's resolve. As the Aegis returned home, Lavra stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars. They had won this round, but the war for Earth's place in the galaxy was far from over. The victory against the Coalition fleet was a turning point, but it didn't bring the peace Lavra Hayes had hoped for. Instead, it created a fragile, calm pause in the storm rather than an end to it. Across the galaxy, reactions were mixed. Some hailed Earth as a savior, a force strong enough to challenge tyranny and protect the weak. Others saw humanity as reckless invaders, too dangerous to be left unchecked. The lines between friend and foe blurred, leaving everyone uncertain about what would come next. On Earth, the celebrations were muted this time. People understood that the battle wasn't truly over. The Coalition's retreat had bought them time, but it wouldn't last forever. Leaders gathered in emergency sessions, debating how to prepare for the inevitable retaliation. Scientists worked around the clock to improve Earth's defenses, while diplomats reached out to potential allies, hoping to build a network of support. Before the next wave of conflict arrived, for Lavra and her crew, life aboard the Aegis became a whirlwind of activity. They were constantly monitoring communications, analyzing data, and preparing for another confrontation. Alex Carter spent every waking moment refining the Eclipse cannon, ensuring it could handle even larger fleets if needed. Rachel Morgan intercepted transmissions from across the galaxy, piecing together intelligence reports about shifting alliances and growing tensions. Daniel Brooks ran endless drills, practicing evasive maneuvers and combat simulations until the crew could execute them. In their sleep, and Lavar? She stood at the center of it all, steering her team through the chaos with quiet determination. But despite their efforts, questions lingered in the back of everyone's mind. Had they done enough to secure Earth's future? Or had they only delayed the inevitable? Commander Ethan Drake was furious. His carefully planned assault had ended in humiliation, and now he faced criticism from every corner of the galaxy. Some called him reckless for attacking Earth. Others accused him of incompetence for failing to crush them when he had the chance. Drake knew he couldn't let this stand. He had staked his reputation and his career on bringing Earth to heel, and failure was not an option. Drake retreated to his private quarters aboard the flagship of the Coalition fleet, poring over star charts and tactical reports. His advisors urged caution, warning him not to underestimate Earth again. But Drake refused to listen. "They won because we underestimated them once," he snapped. "We won't make that mistake twice." He began assembling a new plan, one that involved sabotage rather than direct confrontation. If Earth's technology was their greatest strength, then disabling it would leave them vulnerable. Drake reached out to rogue engineers and mercenaries, offering them credits and promises of power if they helped him infiltrate Earth systems. Slowly but surely, he built a shadowy network of spies and saboteurs, all working toward one goal: dismantling Earth's defenses from within. Meanwhile, on the Aegis, Lavar noticed something strange. Small glitches began appearing in the ship's system's random malfunctions that seemed minor at first, but grew more frequent over time. At first, Alex dismissed them as residual effects from the Eclipse cannon's activation. But when critical, systems like navigation and life support started showing errors, he grew suspicious. "Someone's messing with us," Alex said one evening as he pored over diagnostic logs. "These aren't random bugs, they're deliberate," Lavar frowned. "You think someone hacked into our systems?" "It's possible," Alex replied, "but whoever did it knows what they're doing. They've covered their tracks well." Rachel chimed in, her voice tense. "I've been picking up encrypted signals coming from nearby sectors. I thought they were just background noise, but maybe they're linked to whatever's happening here." Daniel leaned forward, his expression grim. "If someone's trying to sabotage us, we need to figure out who and fast." Lavra nodded. "Start tracing those signals. Alex, see if you can isolate the source of the interference. We can't afford any weaknesses right now." The crew sprang into action, working tirelessly to uncover the truth. What they found shocked them. The encrypted signals led back to a group of mercenaries operating under Commander Drake's orders. Their mission was clear: disable the Aegis' key systems, rendering it useless in the event of another attack. "We have to stop them," Lavara said firmly. "If Drake thinks he can take us down without a fight, he's wrong." The crew devised a counterplan. Using the same cloaking technology that had allowed them to infiltrate the Varnek outpost, the Aegis slipped into enemy territory undetected. Their target was a hidden base where Drake's mercenaries were coordinating their efforts. The base was heavily guarded, but the crew had faced worse odds before. Under the cover of darkness, the Aegis approached the base. Alex deployed drones equipped with signal jammers, disrupting the mercenaries' communications and causing confusion among their ranks. Rachel intercepted internal messages, feeding real-time updates to the crew. Daniel guided the ship into position, keeping it hidden from view while Lavra coordinated the operation. When the moment came, Lavra gave the order to strike. The Aegis unleashed a barrage of precision strikes, targeting key structures within the base. Power generators exploded, communication towers collapsed, and security systems failed. Within minutes, the base was in ruins, its occupants scrambling. To escape. As the dust settled, Lavra transmitted a final message. This is Captain Lavra Hayes of Earth's battleship Aegis. Your attempt to sabotage us has failed. Consider this your last warning. Any further aggression will be met with overwhelming force. The destruction of the base sent shockwaves through the galaxy. News of Drake's plot spread quickly, exposing his tactics and undermining his credibility. Many of his former allies distanced themselves from him, unwilling to risk association with a man whose plans kept falling apart. Even members of the Galactic Council began questioning whether opposing Earth was truly worth the cost. Drake, however, refused to give up. Cornered and desperate, he launched one final gambit, an all-out assault on Earth itself. Gathering what remained of his fleet, he charged toward the Sol system. Determined to prove that humanity's rise could still be stopped, the Aegis intercepted the fleet far from Earth, standing as the first line of defense. This time, there would be no holding back. With the Eclipse cannon fully operational and the crew prepared for anything, Lavra gave the order to engage. The battle was fierce, with both sides exchanging fire in a dazzling display of light and energy. But the Aegis held firm, its advanced technology giving it the edge it needed to withstand the onslaught. When the Eclipse cannon activated once more, the Coalition fleet crumbled. Unable to mount a coherent counterattack. In the aftermath, Drake's forces surrendered, and he was stripped of his rank and influence. Earth emerged victorious, its place in the galaxy secured for now. As the Aegis returned home, Lavra stood on the bridge gazing at the stars. They had fought hard and won, but she knew the galaxy was unpredictable. Peace was never guaranteed, and threats would always loom on the horizon. Still, she felt a sense of pride, not just in herself or her crew, but in humanity as a whole. Earth had proven itself capable of standing tall among the stars. Whether that meant lasting peace or ongoing struggles remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: the galaxy finally understood what terror truly meant.